So what's up, everyone? Welcome back to more Legend of DRIZZT in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. The theme of the campaign, if you're new to the show, is that we are cosplaying Lokir Felhart as DRIZZT DO'URDEN. So this is obviously in the future, if it were ever to take place in the fantasy worlds, long after his adventures, as they are recorded by the legendary R.A. Salvatore. And yeah, he's shown up on the shores of the Immortal Empires map. Campaign-wise, plan is to consolidate this territory now that we have these. So we've consolidated these provinces. We're going to build them up, probably fortify them a little bit, and we are going to smash through some of this territory, try and eradicate some enemies, and in the meantime make some allies by selling them the territory of our enemies. So that's kind of the plan moving forward. Today's chapter is a little bit shorter, so I'll try and move quickly on the campaign map, try and cover as much ground as possible. But without further ado, here we go, boys. Chapter 5.
Aboard the Tower of Blessed Dread. Lord of the Black Court. Next tide.
Legend of DRIZZT, Book 1, Homeland, R.A. Salvatore, Chapter 5, Weaning. 5 long years, Verena devoted almost every waking moment to the care of baby DRIZZT. In Drow society, this was not so much a nurturing time as an indoctrinating time. The child had to learn basic motor and language skills, as did children of all the intelligent races. But a Drow elf also had to be grilled on the precepts that bound the chaotic society together. In the case of a male child such as DRIZZT, Verena spent hour after endless hour reminding him that he was inferior to Drow females. Since almost all of this portion of DRIZZT's life was spent in the family chapel, he encountered no males except during times of communal worship. Even when all in the house gathered for the unholy ceremonies, DRIZZT remained silent at Verena's side, with his gaze obediently to the floor. When DRIZZT was old enough to follow commands, Verena's workload lessened. Still, she spent many hours teaching her younger brother. Presently, they were working on the intricate facial, hand, and body movements of the silent code. Often, though, she just set DRIZZT about the endless task of cleaning the dome's chapel. The room was barely a fifth the size of the great hall in House Benair, but it could hold all the dark elves of House DO'URDEN with 100 seats to spare. Being a wean mother was not so bad, Verena thought, but still, she wished that she could devote more of her time to her studies. If Matron Malice had appointed Maya to the task of rearing the child, Verena might already have been ordained as a high priestess. Verena still had another 5 years in her duties with DRIZZT. Maya might attain the high priestess before her. Verena dismissed that possibility. She could not afford to worry about such problems. She would finish her tenure as Wean Mother in just a few short years, on or around his 10th birthday. DRIZZT would be appointed page prince of the family and would serve all the household equally. If her work with DRIZZT did not disappoint Matron Malice, Verena knew that she would get her due. Go up the wall, Verena instructed. Tend to that statue. She pointed to a sculpture of a naked Drow female, about 20 feet from the floor. Young DRIZZT looked up at it confused. He couldn't possibly climb up the sculpture and wipe it clean, while holding any secure perch. DRIZZT knew the high price of disobedience, though, even of hesitation, and he reached up, searching for his first handhold. Not like that, Verena scolded. How? DRIZZT dared to ask, for he had no idea of what his sister was hinting at. Will yourself up to the gargoyle, Verena explained. DRIZZT's small face crinkled in confusion. You are a noble of House DO'URDEN, Verena shouted at him, or at least you one day you will one day earn that distinction. In your neck purse, you possess the emblem of the house, an item of considerable magic. Verena still wasn't certain if DRIZZT was ready for such a task. Levitation was a high manifestation of innate drow magic, certainly more difficult than lining objects in fairy fire or summoning globes of darkness. The Do'Urden emblem heightened these innate powers of drow elves, magic that usually emerged as drow matured. Whereas most drow nobles could summon the magical energy to levitate once every day or so, the nobles of House Do'Urden, with their insignia tool, could do so repeatedly. Normally, Verena would never have tried this on a male child younger than 10, but DRIZZT had shown her so much potential in the last couple of years that she saw no harm in the attempt. Just put yourself in line with the statue, she explained, and will yourself to rise. DRIZZT looked up at the female carving, then lined his feet out in front of the thing's angled and delicate face. Put a hand to his collar, trying to attune himself to the emblem. He had sensed before that the magic coin possessed some type of power, but it was only a raw sensation. Child's intuition. Now that DRIZZT had some focus and confirmation to his suspicions, he clearly felt the vibrations of magical energy. A series of deep breaths cleared distracting thoughts from the young drow's mind. He blocked out the other sights of the room. All he saw was the statue, the destination. He felt himself grow lighter. His heels went up, and then he was on one toe, though he felt no weight upon it. DRIZZT looked over at Verena, his smile wide in amazement. Then he tumbled to a heap. Foolish male, Verena scolded. Try again. Try 1,000 times if you must. She reached for her snake-headed whip on her belt. If you fail... DRIZZT looked away from her, cursing himself. His own elation had caused the spell to falter. He knew that he could do it now, though, and he was not afraid of being beaten. Concentrated again on the sculpture, and let the magical energy gather within his body. Verena, too, knew that DRIZZT would eventually succeed. His mind was keen, as sharp as any Verena had ever known, including those of the other females of House Do'Urden. The child was stubborn, too. DRIZZT would not let the magic defeat him. She knew he would stand under the sculpture until he fainted from hunger, if need be. Verena watched him go through a series of small successes and failures, the last one dropping DRIZZT from a height of nearly 10 feet. Verena flinched, wondering if he was seriously hurt. DRIZZT, whatever his wounds, did not even cry out, but moved back into position and started concentrating all over again. He is young for that, came a comment from behind Verena. She turned in her seat to see DRIZZT standing over her, customary scowl on the older sister's face. Perhaps, Verena replied, but I'll not know until I let him try. Whip him when he fails, DRIZZT suggested. Pulling her cruel, six-headed instrument from her belt, she gave the whip a loving look, as if it were some sort of pet, and let a snake's head writhe about her neck and face. Inspiration. Put it away, Verena retorted. DRIZZT is mine to rear, and I need no help from you. You should watch how you speak to a high priestess, DRIZZT warned, and all of the snakehead extensions of her thoughts turned menacingly toward Verena. As Matron Malice would watch how you interfere with my tasks, Verena was quick to reply. DRIZZT put her whip away at the mention of Matron Malice. Your tasks, she echoed scornfully. You are too yielding for such a chore. Male children must be disciplined. They must be taught their place. Realizing that Verena's threat held dire consequences, the older sister turned and left. Verena let DRIZZT have the last word. The Ween Mother looked back to DRIZZT, still trying to get up to the statue. Enough, she ordered, recognizing that the child was tiring. He could barely get his feet off the ground. I will do it, DRIZZT snapped back at her. Verena liked his determination, but not the tone of his reply. Perhaps there was some truth to DRIZZT's words. Verena snapped the snake-headed whip from her belt. Little inspiration might go a long way. Verena sat in the chapel the next day, watching DRIZZT hard at work polishing the statue of the naked female. He had levitated the full 20 feet in his first attempt this day. Verena could not help but be disappointed when DRIZZT did not look back to her and smile at the success. She saw him now, hovering up in the air, his hands a blur as they worked the brushes. Most vividly of all, though, Verena saw the scars on her brother's naked back, the legacy of their inspirational discussion. In the infrared spectrum, the whip lines showed clearly, trails of warmth where the insulating layers of skin had been stripped away. Verena understood the gain in beating a child, particularly a male child. Few drow males ever raised a weapon against a female, unless under the order of some other female. How much do we lose? Verena wondered aloud. What more could one such as DRIZZT become? When she heard the words spoken aloud, Verena quickly brushed the blasphemous thoughts from her mind. She aspired to become a high priestess of the Spider Queen, Loth the Merciless. Such thoughts were not in accord with the rules of her station. She cast an angry glare on her little brother, transferring her guilt, and again took out her instrument of punishment. He would have to whip DRIZZT again this day for the sacrilegious thoughts he had inspired within her. So the relationship continued for another 5 years. DRIZZT learning the basic lessons of life in a drow society, while endlessly cleaning the chapel of House Do'URDEN. Beyond the supremacy of female drow, a lesson always accentuated by the wicked, snake-headed whip. The most compelling lessons were those concerning the surface elves, the fairies. Evil empires often bound themselves in webs of hate toward fabricated enemies, and none in the history of the world were better at it than the drow. From the first day they were able to understand the spoken word, drow children were taught that whatever was wrong in their lives could be blamed on the surface elves. When the fangs of Verena's whip sliced into DRIZZT's back, he cried out for the death of a fairy. Conditioned hatred was a rational emotion. Part 2, The Weapon Master. Empty hours, empty days. I find that I have few memories of that first period of my life. Those first 16 years when I labored as a servant. Minutes blended into hours, hours into days, and so on, until the whole of it seemed one long and barren moment. Several times I managed to sneak out onto the balcony of House Do'URDEN and look out over the magical lights of Menzoberranzan. On all of those secret journeys, I found myself entranced by the glowing and then dissipating heat light of Narbondel, the time clock pillar. Looking back on that now, on those long hours watching the glow of the wizard's fire slowly walk its way up and then down the pillar, I am amazed at the emptiness of my early days. I clearly remember my excitement, tingling excitement each time I got out of the house and set myself into position to observe the pillar. Such a simple thing it was, yet so fulfilling compared to the rest of my existence. Whenever I hear the crack of a whip, another memory, more a sensation than a memory actually, sends a shiver through my spine. The shocking jolt and the ensuing numbness from those snake-headed weapons is not something that any person would soon forget. They bite under your skin, sending waves of magical energy through your body. Waves that make your muscles snap and pull beyond their limits. Yet I was luckier than most. My sister Verena was near to becoming a high priestess when she was assigned the task of rearing me, and was at a period of her life where she possessed far more energy than such a job required. Perhaps then there was more to those first 10 years under her care than I now recall. Verena never showed the intense wickedness of our mother, or more particularly of our oldest sister DRIZZT. Perhaps there were good times in the solitude of the house chapel. It is possible that Verena allowed a more gentle side of herself to show through to her baby brother. Maybe not. Even though I count Verena as the kindest of my sisters, her words drip in the venom of Loth as surely as those of any cleric in Menzoberranzan. It seems unlikely that she would risk her aspirations toward high priestesshood for the sake of a mere male child. Whether there were indeed joys in those years, obscured in the unrelenting assault of Menzoberranzan's wickedness, or whether that earliest period of my life was even more painful than the years that followed, so painful that my mind hides the memories, I cannot be certain. For all my efforts, I cannot remember them. I have more insight into the next 6 years. The most prominent recollection of these days I spent serving court of nature and malice, aside from the secret trips outside the house, is the image of my own feet. A page prince is never allowed to raise his gaze. DRIZZT DO'URDEN.
An absurd suggestion.
Well, there we go, boys. Quick and painless. Well, not painless for DRIZZT, but quick chapter. But interesting stuff. We got a little bit of a view into DRIZZT's early life. Things are about to get a little bit more interesting, though, I do believe. I think we're going to go with this. I wouldn't mind getting some of these Canaanite assassins. And then we'll name them after various characters, either from the books or subscribers, members. You guys want a character named? Let me know, and I'll try and drop it in there. But I'll try and figure out some characters. Yeah, we'll go for a couple more minutes. Not too much longer, but probably just get through this end turn. How are you guys enjoying the book? I love this series. Things are gonna pick up. It's just sort of setting things up. We're just introducing ourselves to the world of DRIZZT DO'URDEN and his early lives or early life. But yeah, things are gonna get interesting. Very, very interesting. But in terms of the campaign, so we sold all of our holdings over here to Alithanar, trying to get on his good side, which is working a little bit. I think if we really want to become friends with him, we will have to butter him up some more and give him some more gifts, but that might make it difficult to confederate with the other Dark Elves, but we'll manage that a little bit more once this situation has been sorted out. So our next target is going to be Clan Eshen, which will more than likely give us a little bit more of a handful. But we've established these folks, the Eastern River Lords, as we've got some non-aggression pacts with them. So that's a good start there. Let's continuing. So I think for Zaknafine's army here, we are going to go with Dark Shards and a few Dread Spears, and then next turn the Bolt Throwers will be available. For Jarlaxle's army will look more like DRIZZT's army. DRIZZT's army, the Lokir's army. So with Jarlaxle here, we'll probably... Oh, we're broke, that's why. I'm like, why can't we afford it? Or we can't recruit any more guys? We spent all our money, that's why. So maybe the Blackhawk Corsairs, or maybe with Jarlaxle's army. Because Jarlaxle, when we meet him, he plays a small role in this book. We are going to get to meet him here shortly. With his army, maybe we'll go a little bit more specialized, and we will go with the Shades, maybe. Oh shit, we're not building for Shades, are we? Yeah, I want access to the Canaanite assassins, but let's hold off on that for a second. Let's do the Shades first, and then I'm just wondering if we should do... I'm not very good with Shades, to be perfectly honest. The few Dark Elf campaigns that I've done, guys, things have not gone super well with the Shades, but we'll see. I feel like playing a little bit of, whatchamacallit, Total War Pharaoh has improved my sort of just fundamentals a little bit, which I think recommend for anyone, just if you want just your fundamentals of formations and flanking and maneuvers and just very quick paced battles with very basic units. I think Total War Pharaoh will do wonders for your fundamentals of total warfare. Anyway, that's just one guy's opinion. But yeah, maybe we'll do some videos just covering that a little bit. I gotta change the settings here a bit. These shouldn't have these reflections on. These reflections kind of. I don't know if that's reflections or the fog. Je ne sais pas. But I think this is where we'll leave it here. I know it's a much shorter video today, but that gives you guys the opportunity to get on with your days and enjoy it. I hope you're enjoying this series. I am both enjoying the book, rereading these books, and I'm also enjoying the campaign. The campaign has been quite fun so far, and we're probably playing it differently than most people have played it so far. So yeah, I'm going to try and make friends with the Cathayans, and we'll get rid of the rats next. Try and trade the settlements to the other Cathay factions, and then we'll be free to sail to the dark lands of Nagaron. So thank you very much for watching. Have yourselves a wonderful day. Ragnarok out.